The courtroom fell silent. Only the sound of heavy breathing came from the back rows. Some people lowered their heads. Others nodded in grim approval. The press packed the entrance. Cameras zoomed in on the defendant's stand. She didn't bow her head. She sat tall in a light blue suit, one pant leg neatly folded up where her left leg used to be. Her eyes didn't flinch. Only her hands trembled slightly. The jury had returned. The judge's voice cut through the room. This court finds the defendant, Rachel Monroe, guilty of first-degree murder. The sentence is death by lethal injection. Gasps filled the air. Some clapped, some cursed, some cried. Rachel looked up toward the ceiling. From the back row, an elderly man stood abruptly. Her father, Carl Monroe, a war veteran bound to a wheelchair. His eyes red but unwavering. Beside him sat Bravo, a golden Labrador. His gaze locked onto Rachel. Bravo had followed her to the battlefield, had kept her upright when she lost her leg. Now he whimpered, tail lowered. He wanted to run to her, but the leash held tight. Rachel turned to her father, her voice low but firm. "Dad, take care of Bravo for me. Don't let them take him." The guards let her out. Bravo let out a long, aching howl, a sound that froze everyone in the room, a cry of pure grief and defiance. Carl gripped the arms of his wheelchair. He didn't shed a tear. He just watched his daughter's silhouette disappear, a storm brewing in his chest. He knew Rachel was innocent, not just because he was her father, but because of everything she told him about the clinic, about Dr. Grant, about the missing files, about the threats in anonymous texts. But no one believed her. Because she had been diagnosed with anxiety, because she was disabled, because they needed anyone to close the case. Bravo sensed it. Since the day she was taken, he refused to eat, refused to play. He just lay beneath Carl's feet, eyes always fixed on the shut door. Sometimes at night, he'd whimper in his sleep, like he was calling her home. Carl began to question everything. The way every piece of evidence was just too perfect. The surveillance footage missing key frames, the threats arriving right on cue, the gun miraculously bearing Rachel's fingerprints. It all felt orchestrated, and that terrified him. A week after the trial, Carl turned his living room into an investigation hub. Case files, crime scene photos, printed text messages. They covered the walls. Bravo lay silently beneath the main bulletin board. But every time Carl touched a photo of Dr. Grant, Bravo growled. No one had trained him to do that. He just knew, as if he could sense who was real and who was pretending. One evening, as Carl studied a file, Bravo suddenly growled. He leapt onto the couch, tore into the seat cushion with his teeth. Carl rushed over to stop him, then froze. A small silver hard drive dropped from the torn lining. It had Rachel's name taped on it. With shaking hands, Carl plugged it into his laptop. Bravo sat beside him, eyes fixed on the screen. Inside the drive were audio files, recordings of Rachel and Grant, conversations about missing medication stock, falsified patient lists, secret funds wired to hidden accounts. The last recording was Grant's voice, shaky and tense. "You really shouldn't dig any deeper, Rachel. You have no idea who you're messing with." Carl sat frozen. Blood drained from his face. His daughter had found something. And maybe that's why she was silenced. Bravo nudged Carl's hand. His eyes said it all. "We have to act. Now." Carl didn't sleep that night. He replayed the recordings again and again. Rachel's voice was calm. Grant's voice slippery, evasive. Bravo sat by his feet. He didn't sleep either. Didn't bark. Didn't move. He just waited. The next morning, Carl called Eli Sanders, the young attorney who once defended Rachel. Eli was skeptical at first, but after hearing the recordings, his voice dropped. If the court had heard this, we need to back up everything. Carl nodded. He already made 3 backup copies. Suddenly, Bravo stood up. He barked and sprinted toward the door. "Bravo," Carl called out. But the dog didn't stop. He growled like he sensed something. Carl grabbed his cane and hobbled to the door. Bravo shot out like he had a mission. Eli looked stunned. "What's wrong with your dog?" Carl took a breath. "He's not wrong. He's leading us. We should follow." Eli hesitated, then grabbed a leash from his car. Bravo led them straight toward the commercial district, to a place Rachel once worked. Carl recognized the route. Bravo used to walk it with her every evening. He remembered every turn. Eventually, the dog stopped in front of an old laundromat. He barked 3 times, then sat waiting. Carl looked up at the faded sign. This place had shut down months ago. Bravo pressed his nose against the door. It wasn't locked, just held shut by a broken latch. Eli looked uneasy. "What exactly are we doing here?" Carl's voice was firm. "We go in." Bravo knows something. Inside was a dusty, musty room. The air reeked of old chemicals and damp fabric. Bravo darted to the back, digging through a pile of rags. A rustling sound emerged. Eli stepped closer. He pulled out a white lab coat. Dry red stains clung to the pocket. Carl's voice cracked. "That's Grant's coat." Bravo sniffed and let out a sharp bark. Eli pulled out his phone. "We need to get this tested. Now." Carl nodded, but carefully. "This is living evidence." Bravo looked at them both like he had finished one mission, then turned back toward the door, waiting. As they reached the car, Eli's phone rang. It was a former lab tech, someone who had helped Rachel analyze drug samples. The man sounded shaken. "Something's going on. Someone broke into the clinic archive. They're wiping every file tied to Grant." Eli's jaw tightened. "We have to move. Now, before they erase everything." Carl looked at Bravo. The dog was staring at the City Hall building, eyes unblinking. "I think he still has more to show us." Eli nodded slowly. "All right. This time, I trust your dog." Bravo led them toward the Tucson Public Library, a quiet municipal building. Rachel once told them she had made copies. She stored one set here, in a private document locker. Bravo guided them to the 3rd floor, to the room with rental file cabinets. Carl scanned the numbers. He found the one Rachel had mentioned. Eli used a backup key to open it. Inside was a thick stack of files. Charts, spreadsheets, transaction reports, forged payments, faked prescriptions. Grant's signature and another name that made Carl's stomach drop. Neil Carpenter, senior assistant at the clinic, the same man who publicly accused Rachel of being mentally unstable. Bravo growled again. He had heard that name one too many times. Carl let out a shaky breath. She wasn't making it up. She found the truth. And that's why they silenced her. Eli clutched the file. "This is enough. We hand this over to someone we can trust." Carl looked down calm but resolute. "And I know just the person. A man I served with. Someone I trust more than myself." The person Carl had in mind was Linda Graves. a former officer who had served in Iraq, now a federal agent with the Department of Justice. Linda was known for being tough and incorruptible. Carl called her that same night. He said just one sentence, "I need you to believe my daughter." Linda paused, then agreed to meet. The next morning, at a quiet cafe on the edge of town, Linda sat across from Carl and Eli. Bravo lay at Carl's feet, staring directly at her. Carl told her everything. The recordings, the lab coat, the hidden hard drive, the financial files. Linda didn't speak right away. She just looked at Bravo, long and steady. "This dog, he's seen combat, hasn't he?" Carl nodded. 3 tours in the Pacific. Linda gave a slight nod. "I believe him, and I believe you." Bravo gave a soft bark, as if to confirm her words. Linda reached for the folder. "I'll verify everything. But if this is legit, we're not just going after one man. We're taking on the system." Eli asked quietly, "Will you help us?" Linda looked up. "If I don't, who will?" She stood. "I have to return to the office. You two be careful. Don't go home. They're watching." Carl scanned the area instinctively. Bravo had already risen, his legs tense, ready for anything. Once Linda left, Carl and Eli moved quickly. They headed to a safer place, an old friend's cabin deep in the woods. No one knew about it. No cell signal. Only Bravo knew the way. He led them through the trees, past a narrow stream, across a rotting wooden bridge. The place had once been Rachel's camping spot. The cabin was small, plain, but solid. Inside, a few of her old things remained. A wooden table, Rachel's name still carved into the surface. Bravo curled up beneath it, like he'd found home. Carl fired up a shortwave radio, encrypted signal only. 3 beeps. Then Linda's voice. "I verified the files. And there's more. DOJ opened this case once, but shut it down before anything stuck." Eli asked, "Who has the power to shut down a federal investigation?" Linda didn't hesitate. One person. Neil Carpenter, the clinic's senior aide given special clearance years ago. Carl clenched his fist. "That bastard. He's the key to everything." Linda continued, "We need something direct. Proof he framed Rachel." Eli went quiet, then snapped his fingers. There was an IT guy. Paul. He handled the clinic's internal system. He sent me a strange message once, right before he vanished after the trial. Carl asked, "You know where he lives?" Eli nodded. "North Side. Cheap rental off the highway." Carl stood up. "Then we're going. Now." Bravo was already by the door, his eyes fixed on the dirt road as if he knew this next step could change everything. The motel sat at the end of a dead-end street. Faded walls, rusty bars on cracked windows. Eli slowed his steps as they approached. 2nd floor. Room 204. Bravo growled low while climbing the stairs. Carl took a deep breath. One hand gripped the leash. The other clenched an old handgun hidden in his coat. The door was shut tight. No sound inside. Eli knocked 3 times, light precise. Silence. He tried the handle. It turned. Unlocked. The door creaked open. Inside, pitch black. The air reeked of mildew. Bravo stepped in first, slowly, cautiously, ears up. Pause, silent. He gave a quiet bark toward the far corner. Carl switched on a flashlight. They're huddled under a blanket, eyes wide with fear. Paul, still alive. He trembled as he sat up. "Who sent you?" Eli sat across from him. "We're here to save Rachel Monroe." Paul's breath was shaky. "I thought I was marked for death." I know who did it. I was ordered to wipe the security footage, alter Rachel's timestamps, overwrite the part where Grant met someone else that night. Eli leaned in. Who did Grant meet? Paul looked around, then whispered, Neil Carpenter. He left the clinic around midnight. A few hours later, cops arrived. Grant was found dead in his office, Carl muttered. And they blamed it all on my daughter. Paul nodded. They said if I stayed quiet, I'd be protected. But I've been watched ever since. Someone broke into my room twice. Didn't take anything. Just tore things up so I'd know. Bravo sat close to Paul, calm but alert, eyes fixed on the door. Carl turned to Eli. This is enough to file charges. Eli nodded. And we have to move fast. Paul handed over a small hard drive. I made backups of the original camera footage. I didn't trust the internal servers. Carl grabbed his hand. You just saved my daughter. Bravo let out a quiet bark of approval. Suddenly, tires screeched outside. A black SUV slammed to a stop in front of the motel. Bravo jumped to his feet. Ears pointed, low growl in his chest. Carl rushed to the window. 3 men stepped out. Dark suits. One holding a stun baton. Eli yanked open the rear window. We go out the fire escape. Bravo led the way. The group crawled across the next rooftop, dropped over the back fence, and sprinted through a narrow alley. Eli's car sat 2 blocks away. They jumped in. Bravo leapt into the back seat with Paul. The engine roared. Tires skidded on gravel. The black SUV turned, spotted them, and gave chase. Carl shouted. Cut across the intersection. Right turn. The car veered hard. The SUV flew by. Seconds later, inside, they all exhaled. But Bravo kept growling, still on edge. Eli said firmly, We go to Linda. Now. Carl grabbed Paul's hand and the drive. This is Rachel's last shot. Bravo sat still. Eyes locked forward. No more trembling. Only purpose. Only fire. The car stopped in front of the Southern Federal Complex. Linda was already waiting in the lot, wearing plain clothes, a file case in one hand. Face like stone, Carl stepped out first. Paul followed, clutching the hard drive. Bravo stayed close behind. Linda spoke just once. Follow me. We don't have time. They entered through a side elevator, straight to the 12th floor, Special Ops Office DOJ. Linda shut the door behind them, pulled the blinds tight, then turned on the projector. Paul connected the hard drive. Bravo lay beside the desk, eyes locked on the door. The raw surveillance video played. No edits, no cuts. Crystal clear. Rachel left the clinic at exactly 9:00 p.m. An hour later, Neil Carpenter entered, carrying a black duffel. He exited near midnight. Linda pointed at the screen. The light caught something blood on his hand. Inarguable, she said. Carl choked up. They sentenced my daughter. On forged evidence. Eli nodded. So what now? Linda stood. We take this to the federal prosecutor's office. Today. No delay. Carl's brow furrowed. What about Rachel's death sentence? Linda sighed. The governor signed an expedited order. She has less than 3 days left. Carl stood sharply. We don't have 3 days. We have now. At that moment, Bravo growled. A knock. 3 sharp taps. Then silence. Linda checked the door cam. A mail carrier. Envelope in hand. Unknown face. Bravo barked again, not in fear. In warning. Instinct. Linda didn't blink. Don't open it. We go out the emergency exit. They moved fast out through the rear steel door. Linda dialed. This is Agent Graves. I need an urgent meeting with Prosecutor Gerald Moore. I have evidence that could overturn a death sentence. A voice replied, When? Now. No delay. She hung up. We've got 20 minutes to get there. Eli drove. Carl rode shotgun. Linda and Paul in the back. Bravo lay still, but every muscle tense. Halfway up the highway, Linda's phone buzzed. A text. No sender. Turn back if you want to live. She deleted it without a word. No one spoke. But they all felt it. This was the point of no return. The prosecutor's office came into view. Bravo shot up. He smelled something. Linda raised a hand. Stop the car. They all got out. Walked to the main entrance. 2 security guards recognized Linda. Let them through. Then Gerald Moore appeared. Veteran federal prosecutor. Calm stare. Grave voice. Linda stepped forward. I have proof of a wrongful conviction. Moore nodded once. Come in. Carl handed him the hard drive. Moore watched the footage, eyes unblinking. When Neil Carpenter appeared, he froze the screen. I suspected this man for years, but never had the proof. Bravo barked again. A sharp knowing sound. Moore looked at them all. I'll sign the emergency motion right now. I'll send it to the federal judge to halt the execution process. Carl's eyes welled up. Thank you. Before Moore could answer, his office line rang. He picked up. Face went pale. They're moving Rachel out of solitary. They want her at the death facility early. Carl clenched his fists. How long do we have? Moore's voice rose. 3 hours. No more. Linda stood fast. Then we beat them there, before they do something that can't be undone. Rain began to fall. A light drizzle. The car tore down the federal highway. Carl sat in the front seat, gripping the armrest. Linda clutched the documents in her lap. Bravo lay in the back, unblinking. He knew. This was life or death. They had just over an hour left. The state death facility loomed ahead. Rachel had been moved early that morning. No notice to her family. No contact with lawyers. No word to the press. Everything done in silence. Eli drove over the limit. No one stopped them. The car bore a federal emergency tag. Carl said nothing. In his hand, he held Rachel's old bracelet, the one she made for him. Linda kept calling Central Dispatch, ordering them to pause all prisoner transfers. The prison refused to answer. Radio silence. A bad sign. Moore called a third time. The stay of execution is signed. Stamped. It's effective immediately. Carl exhaled barely. But worry clouded his eyes. The order was valid. But would it arrive in time? Bravo suddenly barked. He jumped to his feet, alert. Ahead. The prison gates were open. A motorcade pulled in. The prisoner transport had arrived. Carl shouted, "Stop them now!" Linda held the court order out the window. Security guards rushed in to halt the convoy. 1 minute later, Rachel stepped out. Hands cuffed, face calm, but her eyes hollow. She didn't know what was happening. Carl threw open the door. He practically leapt from the car. Bravo bolted after him. Rachel saw them. Her eyes lit up for the first time. Bravo howled and rushed toward her. She dropped to her knees and held him tight. Carl reached her, choked with emotion. "You're safe now." Linda stepped up, court order in hand. She handed it to the prison commander. The man froze. "We haven't received any official notice." Linda looked him dead in the eye. "Well, now you have." The cuffs came off. From a distance, Eli watched, eyes red. Bravo circled Rachel's feet, whining in pure joy. Moore called again. "The governor has ordered a full investigation. Neil Carpenter was arrested an hour ago." Paul testified. "All evidence submitted. Rachel is officially exonerated. Carl pulled Rachel into his arms. I'm sorry for not protecting you in time, Rachel cried. But I heard your voice, Dad. And Bravo's. I never stopped believing. Bravo barked softly, like saying, I know. He lay down at her side. At last, truth had won. 6 months later, a new veteran support center opened. Its name, Bravo Hope Foundation, founded by Rachel Monroe. With Carl and Bravo, the center offered legal aid and therapy dog training for discharged soldiers. Bravo now a living symbol of hope. Each day, he helped train young pups to serve people like Rachel, those once broken, once forgotten, but never defeated. On opening day, Rachel stood before a crowd, wearing her old uniform, her left leg still a prosthetic, but she stood tall. She spoke clearly. I once lost faith in justice, but I never lost faith in the heart. A loyal dog, a father who never gave up, and a few people brave enough to speak truth. They pulled me back from death, and today I live to pass that hope on. She knelt and stroked Bravo's head. He licked her hand gently. The crowd erupted in applause. Carl sat in the front row, wiping away silent tears. Justice isn't always clear. Truth can be buried, and the innocent can be blamed. But faith, loyalty, and love never fall. Believe in what's right, even when the whole world turns its back on you.